genre.
Back to the Doctor's Companion presents Doctor Who The Long Way Round, the weekly podcast where we review and discuss every episode of Doctor Who, one doctor at a time. I'm Cass Fredrickson.
I'm Nick Jimenez.
And I'm Scott Corelli.
And today on the show, we will be discussing The Curse of Fenric, the 7th Doctor's 11th story.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, and the penultimate of the 7th Doctor.
Oh, that's so sad.
I know. The Curse of Fenric, I mean, it's... this and Battlefield are like the two best stories of this season, season 26. And it's unfortunate that all of the episodes, except for stupid the survival for next on our next round, all of them kind of got mixed around in terms of like the order that they aired in versus like the intention. Because, one of the things that the new, our new script editor, Andrew Cartmel was like trying to do was create a sort of, he was trying to like evolve the show and create a shared continuity between episodes. And JNT, John Nathan Turner, who hated that idea and thought it was stupid, was like kind of, I don't know if he was like intentionally sabotaging that concept to like work it out of Cartmel, but like he really didn't like it, and he really rearranged sort of all these episodes so that none of the continuity really makes any sense, which is unfortunate.
It's hard to say when you have a general dislike for the thing you're making. It's like, what even are your instincts at that point?
Right. So, and this season in particular, JNT was a real bummer to work with because like he thought, with Nightmare on Silver and the 25th anniversary, he thought that was gonna be it. Like he was done. Like that's what BBC promised him. And promised him over and over and over again. And this was the 25th season was like his 9th year as producer of Doctor Who. And he was like, I just want to do anything else, please. And, he had been asking to get out of this since the first season of Colin Baker. And every year they promised that they would, and every year they reneged on that promise. But he was like, no, like I wrote I created the perfect out for me 25th anniversary. I've said everything that I want to say about Doctor Who. I set up a plan for a producer to take over for me and the new script editor. Like everything is set and ready to go. I am out of here. And once again, the BBC, like Lucy with a football, changed the plan once again, and JNT was forced through his contractual obligation with them to stay with the show because they were like, yeah, look, either you stay or we're going to fire you from your contract because we have no other work for you to do. So that's it. Stay on Doctor Who or don't have a job. So yeah. Yep. Sucks really bad. Sucks really bad.
Sucks really bad, the John Nathan Turner story.
Yeah. Yep. Indeed. So he was stuck on Doctor Who again for another season. And you might be asking, why am I bringing up the start of the 26th season when we are, this is our third story this season that we're talking about. And it's because this was the first episode filmed. And this was meant to be the season premiere of this season, which is why the Doctor is wearing like that heavy coat at the beginning and then takes it off because he's revealing his new costume, which is the darker jacket and the scarf and all of that stuff, which was all brand new this season, but not brand new to us because we've already seen it for 2 stories. And it's why we get sort of the establishment of like more of Ace's background, because that was then going to be further looked into in Ghostlight. But now that happened already. So, it's a lot of like mixed up, messed up stuff. Also the ending of this with the Doctor sort of like, kind of like showing that he is willing to betray his companions for the greater good of the situation, whatever that needs to be. That sort of like Doctor manipulator, concept was also being introduced here to say like, this isn't the Doctor that you've seen the past 2 seasons. Strap in, everybody. This is a new guy. And that was all going to be because this was the premiere. It was a big thing, and it was a big part of Andrew Cartmell's plan for the show going forward. And JNT started getting footage back from this episode. It was like, I think we should air this around Halloween. We're going to bump this to the 3rd story. And that was it.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So that's how this ended up being the 3rd story. So this is written by Ian Briggs, who had previously written the very lighthearted Dragonfire, which was also the introduction to Ace, and the exit for Mel, and very famously the episode with the literal cliffhanger, of the Doctor hanging off of a cliff from his umbrella. And having done a very lighthearted episode, Ian Briggs was very eager that his 2nd story be much more moody. So, inspired by Viking mythology, he came up with a story that involved Ragnarok, in particular the legend of the vast wolf monster Fenrir, who was foretold to cause the death of Odin, and so was mystically bound to a great stone until Ragnarok, aka the Twilight of the Gods, as well as vampires, both of which Cartmell and JNT asked him to remove references to because of the greatest show in the galaxy dealing with the gods of Ragnarok. And they're like, that seems confusing. So stop, don't reference Ragnarok. Vikings are fine, but don't reference Ragnarok anymore. And vampires, because of State of Decay, also involving vampires. A story that at this point we've hyped all season, and Nick isn't going to be able to watch this for years. So because it's kind of toward the end of the 4th Doctor's run. But so like all of those things, they were like, look, we've done vampires before. They're not what they are in this, so you need to call them something else. And you can't reference Ragnarok because we just did the gods of Ragnarok and it's confusing. And so he rewrote all of that and turned the vampires into what are they called?
Hemivores.
Hemivores, right? Which is also, if I'm not mistaken, isn't that what Straw Lady in Thing is, right?
Yeah,
and she is in this story.
Episode, yes.
Yeah. No, not Vampires of Venice. They were fish
That's
people.
Right.
This was the Straw Lady in Smith and Jones, the opening Moffat episode in the hospital, where she pokes a straw into people and sucks all their blood out through the straw. Yeah. And that actress who played that character, also Nick, very famously was Leslie. What is her name? Leslie Tiller, the owner owner of the garden shop in Hot Fuzz. Who gets killed with the shears.
That's crazy.
She is in this as the nurse who is like not respecting the scientist's
Nurse
paraplegia.
Crane.
Yes, and was constantly like lifting him up and stuff against his will. Which I guess in the novelization it was revealed. The novelization also written by Ian Briggs. It was revealed that she was a spy.
Whoa,
for the Russians.
That's crazy.
And that's why she was such a dick.
The Americans.
Yeah. Yeah. So, anyway, let's see. Oh, also removed from this story, because of, Andrew Cartmel and JNT, a reference to Ace. There's this scene in this story where, she like makes some makes reference to sort of an assumption that the girl that she befriends, the woman that she befriends in this, and is definitely not in love with, is had a baby out of wedlock. And the woman is she's very offended by this. And apparently there was more to this conversation in which Ace suggests that she is not a virgin despite being not being married, despite being single. And also in that revealed that the man that took her virginity was none other than Sabalam Glitz.
Boo! I hate that.
Yep. So
psychic
that was
damage.
Removed. Yes, that was removed. And despite all the other things that were removed from this story, were not put back in the novelization. That thing stayed out and is not part of canon. Thank God. But yikes. Big yikes. That guy's like 50. Anyway. I mean, I love Sabalam Glitz, don't get me wrong, but come on. Anyway. Let's see. So, the Curse of Fenric, it was originally going to have been shot, with a mixture of studio interiors and location exteriors. But after reading the script, director Nicholas Mallet persuaded John Nathan Turner that given the setting involved, and the mood, the serial could be made more effective by realistically shooting the entire production on location. And J&T was not into this because he was like, that's going to make everything more expensive. And the director said, no, it won't, because we won't have to bring the supporting cast back for additional shooting days in studio. So we're going to get it all done in the location time that you had allotted for location. And we're not going to do any of the studio time. I'm going to shoot the whole thing in that period. And that's how we'll get it under budget. And so given that, J&T was like, all right, fine. Shoot it all on location. Let's see. Fun fact. This was the first Doctor Who story since not the Mind Robber, Mind of Evil. Since the Mind of Evil to feature subtitles. Because, famously subtitles are not really necessary in Doctor Who in most cases because of the TARDIS. But this is the first story since The Mind of Evil to feature subtitles, and to this day is still the last.
Wow.
Yeah. That's kind of crazy. It's like, I was like, really? That's hard to believe, but I guess, yeah. Like, why would there be subtitles in most cases?
We've talked about both of them.
Yeah,
that's true. That you turned my imagination on, Scott, because I suddenly imagined a universe where, like, the Dothraki and the Klingon, and like, what if like the Daleks had like an intricate fictional language that only true fans.
God, what's crazy is they probably do. We just never get to hear it,
That would be an insane
joke
of like, for one moment, the Doctor has like his earpiece turned off and it's like, it's like, oh fuck. Oh, that's what they really sound like.
Or they just start talking like that and the Doctor's like, oh no, something's wrong with the TARDIS.
Yeah, this is what they really sound like, Rose.
Yeah.
It's horrible.
Not so adorable now, are they?
No, now they're
little
cuter.
monsters, just like I always told you. Let's see. Ian Briggs based the character of Dr. Judson on Alan Turing, with the Ultimate Machine being sort of a stand-in for the Bombay Machine, which was built to crack the encryption of the Enigma
the imitation
machine.
game.
All of this in, yeah, exactly, depicted in that story. And the reason that he's a paraplegic is sort of a sort of I don't know, allegory or stand-in or whatever for Alan Turing's castration, chemical castration that he was forced to endure by the British government for being a homosexual. And also, it was removed from the broadcast, but again, put back into the novelization, which is that the reason that he is a paraplegic is because the what is his name? The guy, the boss,
commander guy.
Yeah, the commander guy. They had a homosexual relationship when they were in school together, and apparently in a fit of jealous rage because he saw him flirting with another boy in a rugby match, basically like injured him so severely that he is now a paraplegic, and that is their that's their past. That is what their past relationship is.
That's like atonement. Like,
yeah, I know.
Like I want Stephen Frears to direct that.
It's pretty dark. Yeah.
And they still hang out. Like they're like working together.
Yeah.
Oh my God. What?
This is why I really have come to enjoy reading Doctor Who target books or novelizations that are written by the script writer.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you get a bunch of stuff that's like, oh, okay, interesting. So that was on your mind. You just didn't know how to get it into the episode. In love. Yeah. Interesting.
She's a Russian spy.
Yeah. Indeed. Ace lost her virginity to Glitz.
God, that's so cursed.
Let's see. Okay, so in post-production, director Nicholas Mallet was very distressed to learn that one of the videotapes that was recording, back in order to get lots of stuff done at the same time, they shot with multiple cameras, one which was filming mostly wide shots, and then one that was shooting coverage. And one of the tapes, one of the dailies for that day that was shooting coverage, was reused the following day. Before any of the dailies were like copied. So he lost an entire day's worth of coverage, and was unable to go and remount the production because of his promises to JNT about the budget. And so they just had to sort of make the most of it. But that's why the end of part 4 is done mostly in wide shots with like no close-ups whatsoever of anything. And in fact, it changes the ending because one of the things that was supposed to happen was some sort of close-up reveal that suggests that Fenric survives the events of being killed in the gas chamber, but they lost that shot, so now Fenric is like dead, because there's no.
And we get like a heartwarming kind of character-centric ending instead.
Yeah, that's very true. So let's see. Another fun note. Let's see. I already mentioned Anne Reid, who plays Nurse Crane, would come back to the show. But also in the role of Reverend Wainwright, apparently the guy that they cast for that, he was cast between him and 2 other actors. And those 2 other actors, believe it or not, were Christopher Eccleston and Peter Capaldi.
Shut up. What?
Yes. And this guy was chosen over both of them.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's that kind of really places this episode for me. Doctor Who sort of exists in a vacuum when we do the show the way we do.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Also, that's a bummer for Christopher Eccleston. He came so close to being in his favorite show.
God, If he has problems with Russell T Davies, I can't imagine the problems he would have had with John Nathan Turner. I feel like he would have burned him at the stake right there on set.
Though that's all. It was also like much earlier in his career, though. So like
that is true. Like he hadn't even made Shallow Grave yet, which is kind of his breakout.
I love being on set.
So, yeah.
Every day I do.
And yeah. It's true.
I always will.
Let's see. And then I guess this is going to be really leading us straight into our next and final Seventh Doctor television story in our next round. But after the weak viewing figures that Doctor Who had endured in the 86 and 87 seasons, the production team had been really encouraged by the positive ratings momentum in 1988 due to the 25th anniversary. However, when season 26 premiered in 1989, it premiered to historically small audiences, and the situation never really saw any improvement over the following weeks. In a last-ditch effort to save the show and his belief that this was one of the best stories that the show had done during his tenure on the show, Nathan Turner made the unusual decision to relaunch the season at its halfway mark, holding a press screening for the first episodes of The Curse of Fenric and the season finale, Survival, on October 19th. However, the show was not really written up much at that point because no one gave a shit, and barely anyone showed up. And the 4 episodes of The Curse of Fenric would premiere in October and become the only first-run Doctor Who episodes broadcast to slide so far down the ratings table that their chart placements were left unknown.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
So
like it could be 8 people.
Yeah. Cancellations are coming. It's right around the corner. And it's really too bad because this episode rules. What did you guys think about Curse of Fenric? Nick, I always like to start with you with Classic Who because it's your first time watching these. To me, this is like A+7 and A+ Ace, and it's just like, it's real good stuff. But
No. You're singing my song today. This is like peak of my favorite era of Classic Who that we talk about. I think like this was so entertaining. Yeah, like peak, such great 7 and Ace content. I think this might be Ace's best episode. She just goes through so much. But then also like I found all of these side characters so rich and interesting, and these performances were really cool. This, it swerved. It avoided a lot of pratfalls that I think Classic Who does in ways I'm excited to talk about. I enjoy this quite a bit.
Cass, how was the revisit for you?
I think that I didn't like it as much this time.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It's weird. And I think that it kind of like Ghostlight was, but it's like way more like way easier to follow than Ghostlight. But I think like it hadn't really figured out the balance between showing that the Doctor is like 3 steps ahead of everyone and also like explaining like it sufficiently for like the audience, you know what I mean? So I found a little bit of it confusing and like a little difficult to follow, but I did really like all of the supporting actors were really good. I really liked the person who actually plays the Reverend. So, and like Ace and the Doctor are in top form. I feel like the Vikings and also vampires of it all, like quote unquote vampires, gets a little muddled sometimes. Like, I wish they'd just pick one. And also, there's like I like the cool sea monster too. But yeah, I don't know. We'll talk about it. But like, because I remember liking this one a lot the first time I watched it, but I couldn't really remember much else about it. So it was kind of like almost like a first watch again. And I don't know. Maybe I wasn't vibing with it.
I think they, for my money, they could have jettisoned all the Viking stuff and just kept the vampire stuff, and I would have been just as entertained. I think.
Mm-hmm.
That's fair.
Yeah, I think that I feel like at a development stage they probably should have nixed one or the other. And because I think the problem is that they didn't nix that until they had the scripts, basically. And so then it's like at that point, like you would have to re-break everything, and they didn't have time to do that.
Because you got the runes, right. You got the returning ship, the dead Vikings. It's really in the ingredients at that point,
right?
And you have like the whole subplot with like the Russian spies and like the war espionage, and like there's a lot happening in this.
Yeah. No, I think that's pretty valid. I mean, I think it just, it just kind of like falls into that just sort of general classic Who thing where it just doesn't bother me because I know they were up against it all the time, Yeah. So it's just kind of like, well, they did the best they could. I don't know. But I really like the villain, who is not Fenric, but is being called that the whole story.
Right.
I really like him. I like that he's like an old villain of the Doctor in a story that we've never seen before. I like that he's the inspiration for the Ragnarok character. I don't know. I like all of that stuff. And I guess the suggestion being that the Doctor is kind of an Odin stand-in in this particular case, which is really interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know. I like a lot of the ideas, even if it's not executed the best it could have been.
You know what that reminds me?
But what is in classic
or even
Who, to be perfectly honest.
Because like that. Listening to you, it's reminding me a lot of what I have said on this show over the years about like the Satan Pit and that two-parter, where it's like I just love the vibes of this so much that I love revisiting it.
Right. Very true. Very true.
It's
Nick,
so funny that we start now knowing we start with the subtitles.
Yeah,
we get these Russian soldiers arriving to the beach of this community, this town. Is that Maiden's Point, or is that a different place? Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Where they're swimming. Yeah.
Yeah. That one coastal spot
location
is
they have to represent the beach.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
Have either of you ever seen a movie called Rawhide Rex? It's an adaptation of a Clive Barker story. It's like an 80s horror movie, and it's about this monster, this eldritch monster that gets let loose on this like coastal Irish community, and has a kind of folk horror, religious Catholic imagery. And I thought about Rawhide Rex a lot watching the story.
Did Clive Barker direct
might
that?
Have. It's I don't want to overstate. It's kind of like a trashy 80s horror movie, but the background that I mentioned is so interesting that it kind of feels more elegant than it is. So they arrive at the base.
Yeah, he did not, to be clear. He did
cool.
write the screenplay.
Yeah, I haven't read it. So
yeah,
the spies arrive. Meanwhile, everyone's getting sealed orders. We meet Dr. Judson, the Alan Turing inspired character, who I would argue might be like maybe like number 3 on the call sheet of the story. Like it's a pretty deep ensemble, but now in retrospect, he's kind of like he goes through the most. So the Doctor and Ace arrive at. Can either of you remember the name of the base or the town that they arrive at? Okay,
I don't think they name it.
It's according to the wiki, it's Northumberland.
Okay,
Northumberland.
cool.
Yeah.
Thank you. Because thank you, because I don't want to keep saying like the place.
Yeah, I was thinking the whole time was like, oh, like I was just thinking about Broadchurch because that's also a coastal village in England. So I was like, oh, this is like, I'm just gonna imagine this is Broadchurch during the Blitz.
Remember those vampires? Won't call them that.
Call them that.
They were herbivores.
Herbivores.
You twit! They weren't herbivores. Oh man, that would be really funny to just like revisit a random location like 200 years later in a Doctor Who story.
Yeah.
So the Doctor and Ace arrive at the base of Northumberland, and I love their back and forth. It's just like so charming. We get references to Ace's computer studies. Oh, there's a joke. There's Ace where she's like, I want to go rock climbing. And the Doctor's like, not in what you're wearing. And she kind of looks down as if like she's just noticing for the first time what she's wearing. Is that a part of the lore that I forgot, that they get like given period appropriate costumes?
I mean, he has that big closet, I guess, but she definitely put those on. It's not
right.
Like,
yeah, they didn't just like appear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why she was acting like that, to be perfectly honest. But I guess maybe it was just to draw attention to it because Sophie had like never gotten to she had never gotten to wear period attire for a story before, so she was really excited to be wearing this. Maybe that's all.
She's Ace is very like proto Gen X, like Max Goof vibes. She likes rock climbing, she likes explosives.
Yeah. I wonder if she would be technically born in 1970. I think she is technically Gen X.
Gen X.
Whoa.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think I like that moment because like it's like she's remembering that she's like wearing a dress because she doesn't usually, and she's just like, oh god damn it, like
that's
you're
good.
Right.
Yeah, that's fun. That's also like funny though, because it's like the Doctor's reveal, like his outfit reveal. This was supposed to be the season 2 premiere or the season premiere.
Mm-hmm.
We meet Dr. Judson, we meet Nurse Crane. We do not meet the Ultima Machine, but we get the first reference to the Ultima Machine. And then there's that scene where back on the beach, the Russian soldiers, one of them opens an envelope and there's like a black and white dossier photo of Dr. Judson. I really like Reverend Wainwright. He's almost like a Stephen King character, just like a small town reverend going through a crisis of faith. And we also meet so like it's like after mass, everyone's leaving the sermon, and we meet the two I refer to them as like the stepsisters. I don't know if they actually were sisters or they were just friends, and their ward, their aunt, their guardian, was it just like a mom and daughter situation?
No, I think, isn't it like a house, like a home for girls? Like,
yes,
they used to do that back then.
I think she is supposed to be their like ward, or like they're supposed to be her wards because like they were evacuated from London and like they like were relocated to the countryside. So like this woman is
very important, Cass. I haven't even said that it's World War II era because I couldn't tell because of the way the episode looked. but yeah, because like when the girls meet Ace, they're like, oh yeah, like, oh, this reminds me of my home. Like, oh yeah, none of us are from here. We got sent here during the Blitz for safekeeping. The woman's name is Miss Hardaker, and Miss Hardaker has like, a small town, a real cool like small town beef with the Reverend Wainwright. They have kind of like a argument of faith, and so he's very, very eager to help the Doctor and Ace find what they're looking for.
Yeah.
We meet the so the Dr. Judson is in the Viking graves. We see like the Viking graves and the runes. We learn about Maiden's Point, and we meet the guy that has like the general, the guy with the Nazi recreation office.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah. I always forget about that. And then it happens and I'm like, yet another thing.
Yeah.
This story like just throws onto the campfire, you know? Yeah. Also
is this guy okay? Like,
it reminded me.
Like, is he okay?
There's a Star Wars book that I read called like Bloodlines, and it's like Leia. It's like a Leia novel, and she's like going in. She has like a new political rival that she has to deal with, like a new senator, a hotshot senator. And she goes into his office one time, and there's just like Empire shit everywhere. And she's like, "Whoa, what the heck?" And he's like, "No, I just think it's cool. I just like to think about stormtroopers. I want to be a stormtrooper." It's like thinking about him, and Leia's like, "Oh, okay, you're on my list."
Yeah.
But it's introduced early that this general guy is like, obsessed with the Nazi mind and getting inside the Nazi mind and ending the war at all costs. We learn of the Reverend Rainwhite. Why can't I say his name? The Reverend. We learned that his dad was also a reverend at the same community at Northumberland, and he has like notes of like stuff that he saw in his tenure. We meet we meet with the Ace and the Doctor snooping around, and we go to the radio control room where we meet the radio girls, the radio operators. I loved Seven interacting with that baby, doing little bird calls at it.
Yeah.
And Ace likes the baby too at first, but then when she finds out that the baby's name is Audrey, which is the name of her mom, she's like, "Get this thing away from me right now." Don't want to hold it, don't want to look at it.
I hate my mother so much. I hate all things with the same name as her.
Audrey, ew.
Anything vaguely associated. I also hate Little Shop of Horrors, for the record.
And Audrey Hepburn.
And Audrey Hepburn. Yeah, worst actress.
Oh, we see the Ultima machine. We see the Turing machine, right? This big 40s computer, and Dr. Judson's like, "Oh man, this thing's so sick." And the general has kind of a wicked line of like, so Dr. Judson is like, "Oh, soon these things are going to be able to think just like us." And the general goes, "Yes, but whose thoughts will they think?" I was like, that ages well.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, yes, it does.
We see something. This is our first reference to the Viking chess set. It's just pointed out, but it's like worth saying now because it becomes very important in the final episode. And then we get a remix on an old favorite for our episode 1 cliffhanger. They've got guns. They've got a guns.
Yeah. Oh yes, that's true.
The Dr. and Ace.
It's also like they like set up like a dead guy. Like,
oh
as a
yeah,
trap.
when the soldiers first arrive, one of them like arrives already on the brink of death. We don't know why yet. Yeah. They don't know why yet either.
Yeah. They just use him to set a trap.
Cass, yeah, like kind of like you said at the beginning, this as we're going through it, we're seeing all of the pools of thread that start. I'm like, oh fuck, yeah, there's a lot.
There's a lot of
stuff. There's a lot happening.
Yeah, I guess they toyed with the idea of maybe turning this into 5 parts. And just to like space everything out, but they were doing that in post after they'd already shot it, and Ian Briggs was like, no, don't do that, like you can't, it's gonna add nothing, stop it.
A swerve that starts in part 2 that I really appreciated is Ace and the Doctor get captured by the Russian soldiers, and I was like, oh, here we go, the part where they get captured, and the Doctor and Ace are able to reason with the soldiers, and the soldier's like, you know what? We're going to delay our attack until your return. And I was so relieved as a viewer that we weren't gonna have to like deal with like 20 minutes of them like getting free of ropes or something, you know. And it was the first example of quite a few in the story of supporting characters just kind of being smarter than they usually are allowed to be.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that's a Andrew Cartmel thing, to be perfectly honest. You know, I think that characterization was always like a Robert Holmes thing for like those side characters of like really building like really strong characters that you like care about in the supporting roles. But I think Andrew Cartmel, I think he writes smart characters. Like, you know, nobody is an idiot in this, which is nice.
So I liked this little moment where Ace and the Doctor returned to the church where they met Wainwright, and the Doctor's like, "Have you noticed any differences?" And Ace is like, "Yeah, I guess it's kind of a weird building. Like, you know, it's like it used to be a fortress." Like, no, like since we've been here. She's like, "Oh." This kind of begins the arc that the curse of Fenric. There is a largely listeners. They're in like hundreds of years ago or centuries into this town's past. Vikings came from the east with Oriental treasures, quote, and that followed with them a curse, the curse of Fenric, and they believe that the curse is actually a natural source of lethal poisons that the general guy is like trying to extract from the earth. Am I remembering this correctly?
Yeah, there's like a cavern underneath the town, right? Where all this poison gas has settled because I don't know.
The curse.
Reasons, I guess.
Yeah. They love chemical warfare.
They love them. At any cost, winning the war at any cost, as it said. Yeah, there's like this cool moment where the general guy has like a moment of solace with the Doctor. He's like, yes, I can sense like we've both seen hell. The Doctor's like, okay, cool. I'll allow you to pass. It's like when you're playing like a role playing game and you're just able to say the right thing and just like they give you the code.
Well, I like that scene, and I like the scene that we were talking about earlier with the where they're able to reason with the Russian soldiers, because it also illustrates like the Doctor just like knows what to say to people, you know, which is like important at the climax of this.
He is very we compare him to Merlin a lot, but he's like very wizard and like Gandalf. I think of Gandalf.
Yeah.
Like he's always just kind of able to just charm or reason his way into stuff.
He's very like slippery and like sly in this, you know?
Unfortunately, he is not Gandalf.
Yes,
he is Radagast. So
Radagast.
Yes.
The high. The brown.
The brown.
The brown. I've got leaves and bird shit in my hair.
How are you? I'm fine. Why wouldn't I be? Why are we still here? Oh man, so Cass, you pointed this out in Ghostlight, a feature of Ace that I really love, where she is just able to instantly make friends.
Yeah, she's always making little friends.
She makes friends with the stepsisters immediately, and they invite her to go to like play on the beach with her, but then they turn out to be mean. They try to force her to get into the water. She's clearly not comfortable with it, and she's like, "You know what? Fuck you guys. I'm gone."
Yeah.
And later, please.
Yeah. She's also like that. That's also something I really respect about Ace too, where it's like, no, I'll make friends with anybody, but the second you turn, cut off, done. You're dead to me. Like it's a pretty instant turn whenever that happens, which is kind of, it's respectable, to be honest.
Yeah, she's kind of a badass. You know, she it'd be cool to see like this era of, or any kind of era of Ace with like Rose Tyler. Rose kind of has like that. And then we also get another good scene with Ace in this episode, in part 2, where she has like a sit down talk with the Reverend, and the Reverend like just opens up with Ace about like his loss of faith.
God, you know what I just realized? You were talking about Ace with Rose, and it just made me realize like how killer Ace would have been on Torchwood with Captain Jack. Like if like Ace had been on Torchwood as like a character, that would have been dope as hell. Like
that would have been a completely different show.
Oh, it would have been, and it would have been a better show. Because that's what Torchwood was missing. It was missing like a Nick Fury character. You know, it was missing like a person who gives them their missions, you know?
Yeah.
And it would have been cool if that was Ace. Because like that show is just so aimless because there's no one in charge. Yeah. But yeah, anyway, I just think just dreaming up scenarios of like Ace and Captain Jack and how they'd be like best friends and but also like butt heads all the time in like really fun ways.
You know what happens? Season finale. Aliens are breaking into the base or whatever, and Ace goes to her desk and goes like bleep 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 bleep, and then like a shelf goes in from her bookshelf and it's the bat.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's the bat and like a canister of that explosive that she loves so much. That she made at home.
The stepsisters, the two girls, they're playing in the water. They're flirting with the soldiers, and then this mist starts to appear and envelops the girls, and they turn into vampires, and they lead a sailor into the mist, into the water with them, and later they find him like sirens, and
there's like a weird there's a weird thing where it's like there's sirens here, clearly vampires in other places. But the guy who's like make the ancient one is also like a big fish man. So that also leads more to toward the siren angle. And so it's like which one are they? Like they're like a weird combination. But yeah. They kind of like act, they kind of act like one. Yeah, but they kind of act like Dracula's wives.
Well, yeah, it's like because you get the Dracula's wives imagery, you get the Fishman imagery, and you have the Viking imagery, but they never like. There's a way to make all of those work. You're like, why does the Fishman have to look like a Fishman?
Right,
that's true.
What if we just gave him a big old Dracula cape?
That'd be great.
Though I guess the reason he looks like a fishman is explained at the end.
I guess at one point I forgot to mention this because it's like it's like I don't know in what context or how early this happened, but at one point Ian Briggs toyed with the idea of instead of creating a new villain in the form of Fenric, the big reveal was going to be that it was the meddling monk.
Shut the fuck up.
Yeah, and that he had been on ice since that story. Nick, the meddling monk is it's the first like evil Time Lord that the Doctor ever fought. And it's a first Doctor story.
Crazy.
And he's in one thing.
He's never come back.
And he's never come back in television.
He's got to come back.
But that would have been kind of cool. That'd have been a cool move.
Man, that's crazy. The sisters, the vampire sisters look really cool. They look spooky. I like the long nails.
Yeah. The long fingers, or I don't know. Are they nails? Are they just nails, or it's
claws?
Like entire fingers?
It looked like nails.
Just
like
nails.
Yeah,
like
I had the thought at this point of the episode. I was getting big like Florence and the Machine vibes. Just something about it. And then the sirens lured the sailor into the moor and enveloped him with the like. I wanted to like put like this on mute and like listen to like.
make a fan cam. Curse of Fenric fan cam to a Florence and
like ceremonies.
Oh my god!
Song. Yeah,
because and then the cliffhanger, kind of the weakest cliffhanger. I mean, we'll talk about the best one later, but like they're trying to turn off the Ultima machine. And like, there's no stopping it now. And then Sylvester McCoy looks worried, and then who are you, etc. It kind of is that look.
Yeah, see you next week.
What's the closest he's ever come to breaking the fourth wall?
Oh, in Feast of Stephen, he doesn't come close. He literally does it. It's the first Doctor story where he wishes everyone at home a Merry Christmas.
That'd be so startling if I was a kid.
Yeah,
we dream that. Part 3 is where we learn of their true name. There's a part where I think the Reverend calls them vampires, and the Doctor's like, nope, they're hemivores.
Don't ever say vampire again.
Cass and Scott already know this, listeners. I was obsessed with the subplot involving Ace and the nurse, or not the. I keep on calling her nurse, the radio operator. We learned that she has a husband named Frank who's away in the Navy across the Atlantic Ocean, and yeah, it's great. It's great. Ace just reminds me of like, I don't know, like an RPG character where she's somehow allowed all these side characters keep unloading lore on her.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think part of my dislike of this episode or this story is because Ace reads as like very, very queer, and specifically like lesbian. So anytime she is like, because there's like this whole like weird like unspoken thing where she has like a crush on the Russian captain or something, and then like in is it episode 3 where she like she's gonna quote like distract the guard or whatever? Is that episode 4?
3.
I don't remember when that happens.
Yeah, she needs to distract the guards so they can free someone from the like the cell or something, and she's like, I'm not a little girl, doctor, blah blah blah, and then instead of like seducing this guy, she says like the most cryptic
her
works.
Top Gun Maverick moment where she's like, are you fast? Gotta be real fast to be with me. Faster than the second hand on the clock, motherfucker.
Which I respect, but also like anytime a story tries to like have Ace interested in a man, I'm just like, no,
I fully psychically reject the weird like soldier crush that she has. Like I don't even remember that. Every
No, I know it's there, and every time it showed up it was very jarring, but I just don't accept it. It's like Westworld. I'm like, that doesn't look like anything to me. You know, like I just can't see it. Like it just doesn't, it's not there. And also it doesn't help that guy was like the most like nothing looking guy. Like he just
like
he's
Hank
just some
from accounting.
dude. Like it's right. Like he's not even like, you know, exceptionally attractive or anything. Like he's just kind of there.
He's no Sabalon.
So it's like, okay. Yeah, right. Exactly. You know, at least
Jack
he's
Black,
got an energy to him. Yeah. Right.
No,
I'm right there with you, Cass. It's just I don't know. Again, it's like that thing where it's just like I can't imagine. I didn't see this in any of the notes, but I almost wonder if there wasn't some kind of note where people were like, we're getting a lot of lesbian vibes here, and so we're gonna force you to put in a male love interest.
Yeah.
Because that's not appropriate for children in 1989. That feels like something.
It's like a Rise of Skywalker where they give both Finn and Poe girlfriends. Right. Yeah. Exactly. Cass, have you? I know I'm about to make a reference that I know Scott will get, but are you an Umbrella Academy viewer?
I read the first trade ages ago, but I haven't watched the show.
Scott, there's a subplot in season 2 where Elliot Page's character is like trapped in the past, and they fall in love with Sissy. Scott, do you remember Sissy?
Yes,
and it's like, oh, my husband will be home any minute. Vanya, I can't.
I had forgotten, to be perfectly honest, Nick, I had forgotten that I had even watched season 2 until you said that was in season 2, and I'm like, holy shit, I watched season 2 of The Umbrella Academy. I just had no memory. I thought I'd only seen the first season.
I activated
That's
you.
So
just
funny.
Yeah. I was like, oh yeah, the passing cars meme. That's right. That was season 2.
Oh man.
Yeah, man. Anyway, yeah, that's definitely the vibes I was getting.
But Cass, thank you for bringing up the distraction scene too, because just Ace just gets so many fucking really cool moments in this.
I have no idea what she's talking about. She sounds like blitzed out of her mind.
Like a girl you meet in line in the bathroom at a club. You're just like, who is this?
Yeah.
He accidentally picks up the Oriental treasure. They're marching, and the doctor's like, "Give me that."
That's what we're down here looking
There's
for.
this moment way back to episode 1 where they're introducing everybody, and the Ace says to Dr. Judson's like, "Oh, this is the professor. I mean, the doctor. Hey, professor, what's this?" And Sylvester McCoy has this really little shakes his head, and it's I like how they're able to do the oh boy, without it ever being too. It's so obvious that they like each other and like being around each other.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, there's a moment, guys, where it's a very specific note where the two captains, the Russian captain and the British soldier, are like, let's talk officer to officer. That whole kind of standoff. And I had the thought, and I wrote it down. I bet young Mark Gatiss loved this episode.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely. As did Chris Chibnall.
That's true. The kind of villagey, this kind of reminds me of the Weeping Angels one where it's in a village.
Yeah.
Well, and also we already referenced Broadchurch.
Yeah, we already referenced Broadchurch. But also it also reminds me of the Silurian two-parter that he wrote.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which isn't a village, but it's a village worth of extra supporting characters.
And then what Cass said about this episode kind of feeling disjointed, where just the military stuff in general feels like its own separate vibe of the wartime World War II stuff.
Oh yeah, definitely.
We get that really dramatic. Oh, we learned that Frank died. The radio operator's husband died.
Or at least he's missing.
Right.
He's MIA.
We don't find out by the end of the story. But,
yeah.
I mean, that is I guess in retrospect, that's Ace's grandpa.
Right. It's very true. It is weird though that they decided to maintain the historical accuracy of him being missing in action instead of just being no, he's dead. He blew up.
Godzilla got him. Yeah.
Yeah, I just think that's an interesting choice. This is the reason why I'm pointing it out, I guess.
It just hit me that I was shipping Ace and her grandma this whole time.
Very Back to the Future.
Can't get away from it. The doctor has this big kind of what you said, Scott, about the writer wanting this to be significantly more serious than his previous episode. The doctor has a big old monologue at the end of part 3 about how there's always been two. It's almost Lost. It's there's always been two forces opposite of each other, and evil is a genie in a bottle, baby.
That's funny. Did we get to the part where the herbivores?
Yeah, the big chunk of episode 3 is a very Third Doctor reminiscent montage of just the vampires attacking and them blocking the doors and stuff like that.
Yeah, there's this really cool moment where the Doctor realizes that it's not the objects that represent faith that turn away the vampires.
Yes.
It's faith itself and the strength of faith in anything. And so he just starts muttering the names of every one of his companions, and it scares them off, and then they're able to lock the church doors.
Yeah,
which is a pretty cool moment.
For bringing that back, Scott.
Yeah.
There was a moment where the vampire sisters confront Wainwright, the Reverend, and it's you lost your faith when the bombs started falling. And he's like, no, fuck the Germans. And like, not the German bombs, the British bombs on German cities. And it's like, oh, that's cool. It's kind of fleshing these dudes out a little bit. And then a sick cliffhanger, I thought, was the spirit of not Fenric possesses Dr. Judson, and the line is we play the contest again, Time Lord. Cut to credits. And I was like, oh shit.
Yeah. And he he rises up behind him and you're like, oh my God, he's standing.
Yeah.
Because he's a paraplegic. Yeah. Yeah.
And also they think he's dead.
Because he got like shocked by
he just like rises up. Yeah. And you're like, holy shit.
And he knows where Time Lord is.
Yeah. It's good.
It's good shit.
It's good shit. It's good.
Really so yeah, part 4, we learned that years and years ago before the show started, the Doctor banished this being, the spirit, in the shadow dimension, the Lego shadow dimensions, and he wants vengeance. God, man, there's this fucking crazy moment. Ace really goes through it. They get led to a firing wall. They're about to get shot, and Ace is what she thinks is her last moment on Earth. She screams out, "Mom, I forgive you." And it's just like, God, can you have a lot going on? Or like, Mom, I'm sorry. And
I'm sorry.
Gosh, it's pretty rough, man.
It's pretty rough. She really goes through it.
It's kind of implied that like they need to find a chessboard and they need to challenge this thing to a game of chess because that's what the Doctor did last time. Is that right?
Yeah. Yes. It's just hilarious to me that that is such a part of this because they failed. They like it's so much so that they failed the first time. They're like, Ace is like, oh, there's a chessboard in this place, and they go there, and it's like rigged to blow, and they're like,
twice.
Oh. Yeah, and then it's just like, twice. Yeah. And then she's like, oh man, oh wait, there's another chessboard, and then they go and find that one. I'm just like, wow, this is them trying to find a working chessboard is like a major part of the story.
For some reason, that's also like a video game to me of like, oh no, you fucked up, but there's another one in the church. If you go there, there's another chess set.
Yeah.
So we meet Fish Guy. Fish Guy comes out now, and he's like, my world is dead. And the body of Dr. Judson is like, well, you're not supposed to have this planet yet for a while. So, right? Like, it's like it's playing with like how long he's been like waiting, Fish Dude.
Right.
Yeah. So like the Fish Dude is from the far future where the Earth is like polluted and dying. And then Fenric brings him back here to poison the world. But in doing so, he will like mess up the timeline and like not have existed in the future that he knows won't exist.
Yeah, that was great.
Because he's also he's like meddling. We get like a reveal later on that he's been like meddling through like specifically the 7th Doctor's timeline. Like since the start of his tenure as the Doctor, which is odd, but I guess that's maybe a hanging Chad from Fenric being revealed to be the meddling monk originally.
Because I like as cool as that would have been to bring him back, but like especially with the chess game, like can you imagine if this was like the Toy Maker?
Oh, I know. Yeah.
Especially with the chess.
Yeah, the Toy Maker would have been really cool too.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I don't know. They were very opposed to bringing back old classic villains as much back then. They were always like, nah, let's do a new one. I wonder if it had something to do with like those old BBC like copyright laws where like the writer of that episode technically owns the character they created. Which is why like they would put the Daleks
we'll just
on
come
ice
up with another game
for
guy.
so long, or the Cybermen. Yeah, right. Yeah,
Magical Game Guy. That's his name now. And then the big emotional climax of this episode is the reveal that the baby. So Ace helps the radio operator and the baby Audrey escape, and then later to feel like that was your grandma, that mother you hated so much, like you just saved her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You just kissed her because she's a baby and you love babies. Idiot.
Yeah,
that's like his whole
thing.
energy.
There was that whole thing with like the descendants of the original Vikings or whatever are like
the wolves of Fenric.
They they like carry the curse or whatever. So Ace is one of them because she's like, the descendant of the baby that left, and then the Russian captain, I guess, is also one because his grandmother was from here originally. Like there's like that whole thing.
And he manipulated like time so that they would all show up there simultaneously so that he could get, I don't know, whatever juice that he was wanting out of that process. Yeah. Exactly. And then we get the bit where like where he also was like, yeah, no, I've been manipulating like everything that you've been doing this season. Yeah, you think that she was in that episode Dragonfire for like just randomly? No, I did that. And then the doctor is like, yeah, of course you did. Yeah, of course you did. Like, she's a dumb.
Why do you think I kept her around?
She could have never done that before. Yeah, I always knew. And then like that really upsets her. Which is, that manipulation.
And then in doing that shatters Ace, and then the Great Serpent, which is I think Fishman's real, Fishman, aka Fishman.
Fishman,
is able to move again, and then like taunts Frankenstein's the dude into the corner, and then they turn on the poison, and it poisons him. And later,
well, they don't turn on the poison. He brings the poison in with him and smashes it on the ground, killing them both later at the same time. Because he's like, yeah, fuck it. Like, I'm not going to be around in the future anyway. Who gives a shit? Yeah.
And then afterwards, Ace is like, wow, how could you say all that? And the doctor's like, I'm sorry, Ace. Like, I had to. Once you lost your faith in me, the Fishman could move again. So, like, I had to break you. And Ace is like, oh, like, gold star in women's psychology or something. But then we get this, this moment where the doctor and Ace return to the beach, and Ace, who was afraid of the water, dives in, and we hear her own goodbye to the baby, saying that I love you to Audrey as she's swimming. And it's like very cinematic for this era of the show.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And as a fan of Ace, I found it pretty moving. And then, now because of a technical error, the episode ends with like Ace and the doctor walking back from the water, shoulder to shoulder.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Apparently there was going to be a coda to the episode, which I don't really know what the meaning of it was going to be entirely, but there was going to be a coda in which like after they like walk away and the episode ends, like sort of like fades off, you're going to fade back in and we're going to see Ace as like an older woman putting a baby to bed. And then she was going to like look out her window and see the doctor like watching her to be like, I don't know.
Interesting.
I guess that he's still around.
I do this sometimes.
Keeping an eye on her. I don't know.
I'm picturing like an old lady, but she's still wearing like the jacket.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't really know what the meaning of that was, but apparently that was a thing that was in the script that they cut out.
And so is the Curse of Fenric, anyway. a wild ride, a lot of moving parts.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But makes infinitely more sense than Ghostlight.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. This one actually had a plot for one thing.
And it had like 3 aesthetics instead of like 8 aesthetics.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. All right. Well, that is The Curse of Fenric, the penultimate 7th Doctor television story. It's a good one. If you've never seen it, check it out. And while you're checking things out, check out our Patreon, duelinggenre.com/support. You can go there. You can support what we do here and on our other shows. And get some like bonus podcasts in addition to that support, which is really cool, I guess, if you like that sort of thing. Also, there's the Discord, which there's a link in the show notes to that. A lot of comments and things about episodes as they drop, which is really great. And if you're listening to this on YouTube, we appreciate everyone who likes and subscribes to us over there. So thanks for all of that. But next week we've got a doozy for you, because we're talking about not just the Eighth Doctor's Neverland, but also Zagreus in an all-in-one Big Finish spectacular.
The whole burrito.
So yeah, lots of stuff to talk about. And that's next week on the show. So we'll talk to you then. Bye, everybody.